The shuttle hit the ground hard. Not a landing. A fall. The kind that bends metal and pops sealed doors open at the wrong angle. Emergency lights flickered on inside the cabin, casting everything in dull red. Ambassador Vreel gripped the seat harness with 4 fingers and tried to remember how to breathe. Outside the cracked viewport, the world was wrong. Lightning split the sky every few seconds, close enough to feel through the hull. The ground was dark gray rock, broken and uneven, with cracks of orange light running between the slabs like the planet was held together with fire. A wall of mist moved across the flat land ahead of them, low and slow, and where it touched the rock it left a wet shine that steamed. Sona, Vreel's assistant, unclipped her harness and immediately fell sideways. The floor had a tilt to it now. She caught herself on the wall and looked out the nearest viewport. A sound reached them from far away, deep, hollow, like something enormous clearing its throat. "Status," Vreel said. His voice was steady. He had trained for emergencies. He had not trained for this. Koss, the security officer, pulled himself upright from the floor where the impact had thrown him. He checked the control panel. Half the lights were dead. He checked it again. Still dead. "Navigation is gone," he said. "Propulsion is gone. Communications are damaged." He paused. "Life support is functional." "Small blessings," Sona said quietly. The planet outside answered her with another sound. A deep crack from below, like the ground itself was shifting. The shuttle rocked. Something in the engine compartment gave a loud metallic groan. Vreel stood carefully and moved to the main viewport. He looked out at GT9's habitable band. Thin, barely 200 kilometers wide between the volcanic side and the frozen dark side. The survey reports had described it as technically survivable. He was beginning to understand what technically meant. "We need to signal for help," he said. "Working on it," Koss said. He wasn't. Then Sona grabbed Vreel's arm. 2 figures were walking toward the shuttle from across the rock field. They moved without urgency, stepping over the broken ground like they had done it 100 times. They wore light gear, not the full sealed suits the Concorde emergency manuals called for in a Class 4 hazard environment. One of them had their helmet clipped to their belt instead of on their head. They were breathing the air, the acid-misted, lightning-split, geothermally unstable air, just breathing it. They stopped about 10 meters from the shuttle. One of them, shorter, with a dusty jacket and a scanner in one hand, looked up at the damage along the hull with a calm, professional expression, like a mechanic eyeing a dented vehicle in a lot. Koss had his hand on the side arm at his hip. "Wait," Vreel said that he cycled the exterior speaker. "This is Ambassador Vreel of the Galactic Concorde. We have experienced an emergency landing. Please identify yourselves." The shorter figure raised a hand. Not a greeting exactly. More like someone flagging down a slow-moving cart. "Ryder Cole, GT9 survey team." The voice came through the speaker, calm and a little rough. "You've got hull damage along the port side from the rock shelf when you came down. Your rear landing strut is bent at about 30 degrees. And you picked a rough spot to set down. Geyser Field is about 400 meters east. Lucky you missed it." Vreel stared at the human. "You're not wearing a sealed suit," Sona said before he could stop her to pause. Then Ryder looked down at himself like he was double-checking. "No, air's breathable here. Bit sharp on the lungs first couple days, but you get used to it." He looked back up. "You have anyone hurt in there?" Vreel looked at Koss, who had a cut above his eye and was pretending he didn't. He looked at Sona, who had a bruised shoulder she was also pretending didn't exist. "Some minor injuries," Vreel said. "Our medic is back at base camp. I can have her here in 40 minutes. Ryder glanced at the second human, the quiet one, who had already moved to the rear of the shuttle and was examining the bent landing strut with a small light. "That's Dre. He's checking your hull. He won't touch anything without asking." Koss moved toward the door. Vreel put a hand up to slow him. "You said survey team," Vreel said through the speaker. "You've been stationed here, on this planet. 8 months, Ryder said. Sona made a small sound that wasn't quite a word. "By choice?" Vreel asked. Another pause. Ryder looked out at the lightning-scarred sky, at the mist moving across the rock, at the distant orange glow on the horizon where GT9's volcanic side began. He looked at it the way someone looks at a yard they've spent a long time maintaining. A little tired, a little proud. By contract, he said. But yeah, suits me. Vreel opened the shuttle door. The air came in, warm, sharp, carrying a faint chemical edge that wasn't quite right. The ground rumbled softly under his feet as he stepped out. The lightning above them fired again, bright and close. Ryder Cole didn't flinch. "You need a camp set up, or do you want to try to fix the shuttle first?" he asked. Vreel looked at the bent strut, the cracked hull, the alien sky, the mist. "Camp," he said. Ryder nodded. "Good call. Come on, then." He turned and walked back into the broken landscape, like it was a road he knew by heart. Ryder didn't pick the campsite. The planet did. He walked the area in a wide circle first, scanner in one hand, not looking at the screen much, mostly looking at the ground, at the rock walls, at the way the mist moved. Vreel watched from a distance, unsure what the human was searching for. It didn't look like a search. It looked like reading. After 10 minutes, Ryder stopped at the base of a curved rock shelf. The stone rose about 4 meters behind it, forming a natural wall to the north. He tapped the ground with his boot in 3 spots. Listened. Tapped again. "Here," he said. Dre was already pulling equipment from the survey sled without being asked. "Why here specifically?" Sona asked. She had come outside despite Vreel's suggestion that she wait. She was watching everything with the focused attention of someone taking notes in their head. "Rock wall blocks the EM field drift from the north," Ryder said, unrolling a base sheet across the ground. "Ground solid here, no hollow sound, no thermal pockets underneath. And the shelf angle means acid rain runs off to the east instead of pooling." He glanced at her. "You get good at reading ground when the ground is trying to kill you." Casa come out too. He stood apart from the group, arms crossed, watching. He had cleaned the cut above his eye, but hadn't mentioned it. The camp went up quickly. Not a delicate process. Ryder and Dre worked like people who had done this in worse conditions and had the habits to prove it. Every piece of the shelter was placed with a reason. The entrance faced south, away from the prevailing wind. The side panels were angled outward at the base to redirect water. A short trench was dug around the perimeter in under 10 minutes. Koss watched the trench go in and said nothing for a moment. Then, reluctantly, "That is for drainage, and to slow anything that comes at the base in the dark," Ryder said without looking up. "Mostly drainage." Koss uncrossed his arms slightly. The thermal vent was Ryder's next focus. About 30 meters from camp, a narrow crack in the rock breathed warm air steadily. Not a geyser, not a vent, just a slow exhale from deep underground. He ran a short, insulated tube from it back to the shelter, clipped it into a small regulator, and suddenly the inside of the shelter had warmth that didn't need a power cell. Vreel stepped inside and felt it. He stood there for a moment longer than necessary. "The planet is heating your shelter," he said. "Planet heats everything," Ryder said. "Might as well use it." Leora arrived 40 minutes after Ryder's call, exactly as promised. She came in fast, medkit already open, talking before she stopped walking. "Okay, who's broken and where? Don't say I'm fine. I will not believe you, and I'll check anyway." She looked at the aliens, recalibrated for about half a second, then kept moving. She treated Koss's cut with the same no-nonsense efficiency she would have applied to anyone. He was stiff about it first. She didn't notice or didn't care. "Sit still," she told him. "I've stitched worse on a moving vehicle." Sona asked her what kind of vehicle. "A very unhappy one," Leora said. She smiled. Sona almost smiled back. The afternoon, if it could be called that under GT9's flat orange sky, passed in work. Ryder used strips of a local resin, dark, rubbery, pulled from a crack in the rock shelf, to seal the gaps in the shuttle's damaged hull panels. Not a repair, a delay of further damage. He explained the difference. "You're not fixing it," Koss said. "No, I'm keeping it from getting worse until we can fix it." "How long will that take?" Ryder looked at the hull. "Few days. Maybe 3. He looked at Koss. "You have somewhere to be?" Koss did not answer to IT was Dre who stopped them all. He had barely spoken for 4 hours. He was crouched near the eastern edge of camp, running a ground scanner slowly across the rock, frowning at the readings. Then he stood and said in his quiet way, "Everyone move 2 meters west. No explanation. Just that." Ryder moved without question. Leora moved. Vril pulled Sona back by the arm. Koss stood still. Why? The ground 4 meters to the east sank. Not dramatically, just a soft, settling collapse. A slab of rock, maybe 2 meters wide, dropped about 30 centimeters into a thermal pocket below it. Steam rose from a gap. Everyone stared at the hole. Koss stared at Dre. Dre had already gone back to his scanner. How'd he know? Sona asked quietly. Sound of the rock, Ryder said, and the way the steam was venting nearby. Dre's been reading ground on bad planets for 6 years. He paused. He doesn't talk much, but when he tells you to move, you move. Vril looked at the steam rising from the new gap in the earth. He looked at the camp, solid, warm, sheltered, built from almost nothing in an afternoon. He looked at Ryder. Your people have been living in places like this, Vril said. Not a question. Not exactly like this, Ryder said, but close enough that it didn't surprise us. He handed the ambassador a sealed cup of something hot. Eat. Rain's coming in about an hour, and it's easier to get your nerves together on a full stomach. Vril took the cup. Outside, the first drops of acid rain began ticking against the rock. The rain came down and it hissed. Every drop that hit bare rock left a faint mark. The air smelled like copper and something chemical underneath, sharp in the nose. The humans had the shelter sealed in under 3 minutes. Practice motion, no wasted steps, all 3 of them moving like parts of the same machine. The aliens sat inside and listened to the rain eat the world outside. That sound, Sona said. You get used to it, Leora said. She was already doing something useful with a length of cable and a connector. She was always doing something useful. Does it damage the shelter? Vril asked. Coating holds for about 15 hours of continuous exposure, Ryder said. Rain won't last that long. Usually runs 3 to 4 hours in this band. Then the thermal pressure shifts and it pushes east. He was looking at a small monitor on the wall. Basic weather readings, nothing sophisticated. We're fine. Koss was studying the shelter walls the way a soldier studies unfamiliar terrain. Mapping it. Assessing. He had stopped pretending he wasn't doing it. The first night brought something worse than rain. About 2 hours in, the sound started. Low at first, felt more than heard. A vibration in the rock, in the floor of the shelter, moving through the soles of the feet. Then it became sound. Deep, rhythmic. Not thunder. Not seismic. Something breathing. Many things breathing, moving together. Sona went very still. Vril looked at Ryder. Ryder was already at the monitor. He checked it, stepped to the door, cracked it open 2 centimeters, and looked out into the dark with a small light that he kept angled low, never letting it sweep up, that he came back in. He did not look alarmed. He also did not look relaxed. Migration, he said, happens every 18 days. The big fauna move through the habitable band, heading west, away from the eruption season on the other side. He sat down. They're big. They're not aggressive unless startled. We stay quiet, keep the lights low, and they pass right through. How big is big? Koss asked. Ryder held his hand about 2 meters off the floor. Then he raised it another meter. Koss looked at the shelter wall, which suddenly seemed thin. We should move to the shuttle, Koss said. The hull is stronger. Shuttle's damaged. If one of them leans on it, the whole port side gives, Ryder said. Here, we're against the rock shelf. They'll go around. He looked at Koss directly. I know it's hard to stay still when something that size is walking past, but still is the right call. Koss held the look for a moment. Then Saturday the sound grew. The ground vibrated harder. Something outside the shelter moved. Not charging, just walking, the slow, massive weight of it pressing into the rock with each step. The shelter creaked once and went quiet. Sona had her hand pressed flat against the floor, feeling the rhythm of it. Then one stopped. The breathing was right outside. Close enough that they could hear the texture of it. Slow, deep, a little wet. Something large was standing within 10 meters of a shelter. Not curious, just paused. Nobody moved. Ryder reached slowly into the side pocket of his jacket and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button. A low hum came out of it, barely audible, right at the edge of hearing. The pitch was strange, Not quite a frequency the ear wanted to hold on to. The thing outside breathed again, shifted its weight. One footstep, two, then moved on. The sound of the migration continued for another hour, fading slowly west until the ground went still and the night was just the distant crack of lightning and the last of the rain. Nobody spoke for a while. What was that device? Sona asked. Sound emitter. Low frequency. Big animals read it as something calm and settled in the area. Not a threat, not prey. Just present. Ryder said on the table. Works about 70% of the time. Sona stared at it. And the other 30%. That's what Leora's for, Ryder said. Leora held up a very large syringe without looking up from her cable work. Sedative. Would probably take 3 shots to do anything useful on something that size, but we'd find out together. Koss made a sound that was, very reluctantly, almost a laugh. Vril found he was gripping the bench under him. He let go. His hands ached. He had been holding on for the entire hour without noticing. Dre had not moved from his corner the whole time. He had been writing feel notes. By hand. In the dark, by the dim glow of a small personal light. He looked up now and said simply, "Good data tonight," and went back to writing. Vril looked at the humans one by one. At Leora, who was still busy with her hands. At Dre, who was still busy with his notes. At Ryder, who had leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes the way someone does when they're planning to sleep. Not because the danger had passed for good, because the next thing would come when it came, and rest was useful. Get some sleep, Ryder said. His eyes were still closed. Planet gives you a window, you use it. Outside, GT. 9 settled into the stillness between one crisis and the next. The second storm came without warning. The weather monitor gave them 4 minutes. Ryder was on his feet in 2, calling out tasks before the others had fully processed the sound of the alarm. Dre went for the external antenna lines. Leora checked the power cells. Ryder himself pulled on his jacket and went outside into the rising wind before Vril could ask if that was a good idea. That IT was not, visibly, a good idea. The sky to the north had gone the color of a bruise, dark purple-gray, flickering from inside with electromagnetic charge. The air had a pressure to it, a tightness, like the whole atmosphere was squeezing down. Ryder moved along the outer wall of the shelter, checking anchor points, his hands fast and certain. Sona watched him from the doorway. She saw his hands. She almost missed it. He was moving quickly, and it was a small thing. But his hands were shaking. Not from cold, not from exertion. A fine, shallow tremor in the fingers as he worked a connector clip, paused to get the grip right, worked it again. He was afraid. She had not expected that. Not from him. He got the clip seated, moved to the next one. The shaking didn't stop him, didn't slow him, didn't show in his face or his voice when he called back through the door. Dre, tie off the north line. There's a loose junction on the second stake. Dre did it without comment. Sona stepped back inside as the first wave of the storm hit. The electromagnetic surge went through the shelter like a pressure change. Not pain, but presence, a full body awareness that the air was charged and unhappy. The lights flickered. The power cells dipped. We're losing the cells, Leora said. She said it the way someone says the milk has gone bad. Informational, not panic. How much time do we have? Ryder asked, coming back inside. At current draw, maybe 40 minutes of heating. After that, the temperature drops, and it gets unpleasant in here. Ryder stood for a moment, looking at the power panel. Just looking, which felt to Vril like it should involve more action. Then Ryder said, "Okay." We pulled a non-essential draw, and we bridged the shuttle's secondary cell to our grid. Should extend it by 2 hours. Shuttle cell has alien connectors, Dre said. I know. Ryder looked at Koss. Tell me what the output standard is on your ship's secondary cell. Koss told him. Ryder went to his kit and started pulling parts. What followed was 40 minutes of careful, tense work. Ryder and Koss at the same panel. One who knew the human equipment and one who knew the alien equipment, both of them talking through it in short sentences, no wasted words, no friction. Sona sat close enough to watch. She noticed that their communication had changed. Koss was not performing patience anymore. He was actually in it, actually working. Then the antenna strut gave. The north-facing antenna was bolted to the rock shelf above the shelter. The EM surge hit it at the wrong frequency and the mount cracked. The strut came down fast, swinging on its cable, and the lower end caught Leora across the shoulder before anyone could move. She went down to one knee. Ryder crossed the shelter in about 2 seconds. He got to her, and his voice, until that point level and controlled, came out tight. Leora, where? Shoulder. It's not broken, she said. She already had her own hand on it, probing. Bruise deep. Maybe a small fracture on the edge of the collarbone. I'm fine, Ryder. Go finish the bridge. He stayed crouched next to her for a moment longer than the situation required. Just a moment. His jaw was set. Something moved across his face that wasn't professionalism. A quick flash of something raw and close. Then it closed back up. He stood. He went back to the panel. Koss had watched the whole thing. He didn't say anything. He handed Ryder the next connector without being asked, and they finished the bridge in silence. The power held. The heating cells came back. The lights steadied. Outside, the storm moved east, the way storms here always moved east, leaving the air thin and strange and clean. Leora was already self-administering a painkiller with her good arm and telling Dre her shoulder didn't need fussing over and Dre should focus on the antenna data. Dre said he was doing both. She said she doubted it. He showed her the screen. She conceded the point. Koss stood next to Ryder near the door. He was quiet for a while. Then, my people have a word. For a type of person. He paused, finding the translation. It means, those who burn and do not become ash. Ryder looked at him. We use it for warriors, Koss continued. For those who walk into things that should end them and don't end. He paused again. I think we have been using it wrong. Ryder looked out at the empty, post-storm rock field. Being scared is easy, Ryder said. Stopping because of it is the other option. Some people take it. He rolled the connector over in his fingers. Most of us just don't. Koss nodded slowly. He said nothing else. But when he moved back inside, he sat closer to the group than before. The communications array came back online at what passed for midday on G-time. That the signal was clean, a Galactic Concorde rescue frequency, tight and strong, coming from high orbit. 14 hours out. Vreel read the details twice, then stood up straighter in a way that had nothing to do with posture and everything to do with relief. Sona made a small sound, something between exhale and laugh. Even Koss's shoulders dropped half a centimeter. Ryder nodded at the news, said good, and went back to what he was doing. Then the second signal came. INIT was the survey team's base camp frequency. The team Ryder and Dre had left on the far side of the rock shelf 3 weeks ago while they ranged forward to map the terrain. The signal was broken, cycling, the kind of pattern a distress beacon throws when the person setting it off can't hold the transmitter steady. Ryder had the channel open before the others understood what they were hearing. The voice on the other end was young, strained, trying to sound calm, and not fully succeeding. One of the junior surveyors, his name was Benny. He said the tunnel they had been working in had collapsed. Partial, not full, but 2 people were pinned under debris and the rest of the team had no equipment heavy enough to move it. The tunnel was still structurally unstable. They were waiting. Ryder asked 3 questions. How many pinned? How long are they breathing? Got the answers. Said, stay put. I'm coming. He cut the channel and looked at Dre. Dre was already putting on his jacket. Vreel stepped forward. The rescue ship will be here in 14 hours. Surely it can. It's 6 hours of travel across open terrain to the base camp, Ryder said. He was pulling equipment together, checking it in fast, efficient passes. Then the work to get them out. Then 6 hours back. 14 hours is too long if they're pinned under unstable material. Things shift. He glanced at Vreel. The ship gets you out fine. You don't need us for that. I wasn't suggesting you leave us, Vreel said. I was suggesting perhaps there's another option. There isn't, Ryder said simply. No frustration. Just fact. Koss came forward from across the shelter. I'm coming. Ryder looked at him. The terrain between here and there's open rock, 2 river crossings, and a section of chemical fog that you need specific kit to pass through. Your suit isn't calibrated for. I'll watch you calibrate the shelter seals, Koss said. Show me the settings. I'll do it myself. Ryder studied him for a moment, then turned to Leora. Can he? Leora looked at Koss with the same clinical attention she gave everyone. His lung structure is different. He'll need the intake filter set higher. But yes. Ryder handed Koss a filter pack. Don't argue with me on the route. Don't stop unless I stop. And if I say move fast, you don't ask why. Understood, Koss said. The three of them left camp 20 minutes later. Leora stood at the door and watched them go. Her shoulder was bandaged, and her face was the particular kind of still that means someone is doing the math on outcomes and not liking all the numbers. Then she went back inside, because there was always something useful to do. The route was exactly what Ryder had said. Open broken rock that grabbed at the ankles if you walked without attention. 2 river crossings, one shallow and fast, one deeper, where the current ran warm from thermal heating and the bottom was loose. Koss crossed both without complaint, though the second one came to his chest, and the heat of it was not comfortable. The chemical fog was the worst stretch, a low-lying band of pale yellow vapor about 300 meters wide that sat in a shallow depression in the rock. It smelled like nothing at all, which was how you knew it was dangerous. Ryder handed out the filter masks, set them without being asked what the setting should be, and walked into it. They came out the other side 12 minutes later. Eyes stinging. No sin permanent. How many times have you crossed that? Koss asked. That specific one? Maybe 40 times. Ryder was already checking the scanner, adjusting their heading. Koss processed that and said nothing. The base camp came into view in the early dark, a cluster of lights against the rock, a figure standing outside waving them in. The tunnel entrance was 15 meters from the main structure, propped open with emergency struts, leaning wrong. Ryder looked at it the way Dre looked at ground, reading it. Then he said, Dre, south corner first. Koss, I need to know if you can shift a 2-meter slab. Koss looked at the described slab. His species carried weight differently. More torque in the lower body, thicker load-bearing structure across the back. He crouched, tested his grip, and said yes. On my count. It took 40 minutes. Not because they worked slowly, but because the tunnel kept talking, little groans and shifts that made everyone pause and read the structure before moving again. Twice Ryder said stop. Everyone stopped. Twice he said go. Everyone went. The 2 pin surveyors came out pale and shaken, but breathing fine. One had a broken arm. The other had a cut across the forehead that had bled dramatically and meant almost nothing. Leora was going to handle both without trouble. Benny, the young one who had sent the signal, kept looking at Koss like he wasn't sure what he was seeing. He's with us, Ryder said. Benny nodded like that, explained it. Down the walk back, Koss said, You didn't hesitate. Somebody went back for me once, Ryder said. I owe it forward. Koss said nothing else. He didn't need to. The rescue ship came down in the flat rock field east of camp just before what the survey team called Morning.IT was a Concorde vessel. Clean, large, clearly uncomfortable with the atmosphere it was descending into. The pilot held a low hover rather than fully landing, which said everything about how badly the crew wanted to leave. A ramp extended. A crew member in full SEAL gear stood at the top of it and waved them in urgently. Vril walked toward it at his usual pace. Dignified, deliberate. Behind him, Sona stopped. She turned and looked back at the camp. The rock shelf, the shelter with its repaired seals, the faint steam still rising from the thermal vent Ryder had redirected. She looked at Ryder, standing a few meters off, watching the ship the way you watch something that has nothing to do with you. You're not coming, she said. Mission's not done, he said. 12 more weeks of survey work. Then we pack out. Leora was nearby, arm in a sling, telling Dre she was fine and he should stop organizing her equipment as if she had become incapable. Dre continued organizing it, gently, without comment. Sona looked at the camp one more time. The shelter that had held through acid rain and a migration and an electromagnetic storm. The ground Dre had read like a language. The thermal vent turned into a heater. All of it built in an afternoon on a planet that had tried consistently to make it impossible. She wrote something in her notes. Then she closed her notebook. Vril stopped at the base of the ramp. He turned back to Ryder and composed himself in the way of a senior diplomat preparing to give formal thanks. The particular posture and stillness that preceded careful, weighted language. Ryder stuck out his hand. Vreel looked at it for a moment. Then he took it, and they shook, which the Concord did not have an equivalent for, and which somehow communicated everything the formal words would have taken 3 minutes to say. "Come back sometime," Ryder said. "Place grows on you." Vreel looked at the lightning-split sky, the orange horizon, the mist moving across broken rock. "I believe you," he said. He sounded like he didn't entirely mean it, and also like part of him understood that he might. Koss was the last aboard. He stood at the base of the ramp and looked at Ryder for a moment. "I've submitted a request," he said, "to the Concord's Joint Survey Program, the one that runs alongside human teams." Ryder raised his eyebrows slightly. "First application from my species," Koss said. "I expect it will require some explanation." "You'll manage," Ryder said. Koss nodded once. He started up the ramp, then stopped without turning around. "Those who burn and do not become ash," he said. "I'll be correcting the usage when I get back." He went inside. The ramp closed. The ship lifted, fast, eager to get out of the atmosphere. Within 2 minutes, it was a point of light moving up through the cloud layer. Within 5, it was gone. Ryder stood in the field for a moment. The wind moved across the rock. Lightning cracked somewhere to the north, distant and clean. The ground hummed faintly below him, that constant low conversation the planet had with itself. Dre appeared beside him. He had Ryder's scanner in one hand and his own notebook in the other. "Western Ridge still needs mapping," Dre said. "I know. Thermal readings from a night suggest there may be a stable tunnel system under the far shelf." "I know. Leora says her shoulder is fine and she'll fight anyone who suggests otherwise." "I know that too." They stood there for another moment. Behind them, the camp held its shape against the rock wall. Solid, sealed, built to last the weeks they needed it to last. Functional. There's Leora called from the sheltered doorway. "Are you two going to stand there looking at the horizon, or are we doing work today?" Ryder turned. The wind picked up. The sky threw light from the west. Somewhere far off, a deep sound moved through the rock beneath their feet and faded, the planet settling into its next hour. The air smelled sharp and warm and wrong in the way it always smelled, the way Ryder had stopped noticing about 4 months in dot. He looked at the western ridge, at the work ahead, at the cracked, burning, unreasonable stretch of world that was his office for the next 12 weeks. He breathed in. "Yeah," he said. He picked up his kit and walked toward it. "This'll do."